a lot of athletes I feel are getting more involved with youth athletics across the country. You are definitely one of those. What do you think is the drive behind that? Because even just 10 years ago, it seemed like there was much less reach out to the youth athletics in this country.
Well, I've been a part of youth athletics for a really, really long time. I mean, even since I've been in college, I've been a part of youth athletics. So I can't speak to why there may be a larger trend, but I will say that I believe that as social media continues to evolve and the exposure of athletes and people becomes more pronounced, I think that it just opens up the door for more exposure and more connectivity. So there's just it's a new world. You know, when I was young, I would have to run into Jerome Bettis at the mall, or Dwight White, God rest his soul. One of my first mentors lived in the same housing community that I did. I would have to be running and see him, walking from his mailbox or something to that effect to make contact with him. So the rules of engagement in terms of how you meet people has changed. It's just very different. And I think that is, in a lot of ways, for all some of the bad things that we see take place with social media, one of the things that I can say honestly is a definitive positive is that youth athletes actually have a platform now where they can connect with big brand, big name athletes, and they are responsive and they connect. And I think that it stimulates the growth of contribution to youth athletics.
How does the mentoring of even just an athlete seeing you as I'm seeing you right now through a telephone, how do you think that helps a 14, 15, 16-year-old or even, a player at Penn State to be able to talk to you like this, whether it's physically, mentally, or even their emotional side, to be able to connect with an athlete such as your stature?
I just think it's the belief factor. For me, I always achieved at a high level because I was fortunate enough to meet some really, really successful athletes when I was growing up, and all I could think of was, wow, they're normal. Like, and it might sound crazy, but it's like they're a person. And I think when you're able to humanize someone that isn't necessarily human in any other regard, it gives you the belief that, I can be that person. And so when you make that connection and that contact, and you're speaking to them on, whether it's me or someone else, but just me in particular speaking on me, I just enjoy connecting on a level where they know that we're in this together. And it's not me being removed and high and uplifted because of things that I've accomplished. It's really just about the conversation of how much do you believe in yourself and how much do your actions match your belief, and challenging that way. I think ultimately when you mentor and when you're a part of youth, they have a sixth sense to be able to detect BS. So if you don't genuinely care about these kids, if you're not genuinely in it, they know. They figure it out and they sniff it out. And the respect factor is different. And I think that the level of expectation is different as well. So for me, it's just always been about connecting on a very genuine and organic level. And it's always been that way for me. I'll always, until the day I no longer exist, I just hope that my legacy is far extends beyond what I did on the playing field, and really is, really extends upon what my belief in life is, which is keep going. I always tell everybody, I always finish like, keep going. You're doing something little, keep going. You're doing something bigger, keep going. You're doing something grand, keep going. No matter what the level of what you're doing, as long as you keep going, you got a chance. And so that's always like kind of the motto that I live by, and the genre of life that, I feel like that's where I belong, and that's, you know, what I want to impart on other kids as I continue to meet and influence generation after generation. I mean, you got to think the first kid that I ever influenced was Sean Merriman. So if you want to know how old I am and how far back I go, that's the first kid that I mentored on a true mentor basis. So I've been doing this for a really long time.
Is that mentoring this year more important than maybe in years past, with athletes having their season shut down, seniors thinking they might be a Division II level player, but now the scholarships were taking up there, and it was like, how do you get recruited when now there's not a spot for you? Was it more important this year with all the dynamics going on?
I wouldn't say it's more important. It's very, very complex. It's very complex to have that conversation because I don't have the answers to it. I don't know what the answers are to those questions. But what I can say is I can give you hope that knowing who you are as a person will always outweigh what the challenges and what the obstacles that are presented in front of you are. You got to keep going. What that looks like, you'll figure out as you go what that looks like, but you have to have the confidence and the belief that who you are will outweigh and overcome whatever your obstacles will be. And so just having that confidence and that belief, sometimes it doesn't end the way that you wanted it to end. My career didn't end the way that I wanted it to end, but I've always known that my belief in who I am and what I represent will always endure through any of those challenging times. So it's complex. It really is. And it's not ever going to be an easy answer for what took place with COVID this year. But that's ultimately what this country and this world is having to fight through and push through and endure. And as it applies to our youth, which I think are so many times forgotten in the grand scheme of everything that is being, you know, I guess, trying to overcome with what the pandemic has brought, it's still important to believe in your hopes and in your dreams. And you just might have to take a different route, a different road that you may have originally thought you were going to be able to take to get to where your ultimate goal was. But that just has to be the thought process, because being a victim isn't going to get you to where you're trying to be in life, no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish. Being a victim is the biggest way for you to lose yourself, lose any opportunities of being more than what you were going into the scenario. I ultimately believe every kid that has to endure this pandemic is going to come out stronger than any other group of kids that have ever come through high school, college, because of the given scenarios that were just, you know, unforeseen. You couldn't plan for this. You couldn't say this is how you prepare for this scenario, to tell a kid that he's not going to play. He's going to lose time. I'm a high school football coach myself, and we just got cleared. We'll play an abbreviated season. We'll play 4 games, but it's still not the same. It doesn't feel the same. But I think that there will be a level of appreciation moving forward that there probably wouldn't have been before we had to endure going through COVID.
One of the schools that you mentored this year was Elko. Of all the schools in Pennsylvania, you know, there's Pine Richland out in Pittsburgh. Everybody knows Central Catholic out in Pittsburgh. You know, you're very familiar with St. Joe's Prep, Harrisburg. You know, those are powerhouse programs within the state. Elko is in Little Lebanon County, smaller school, not much football success. That was one of the schools that you reached out to mentor. Talking to some of the kids, they loved it. Every second of it. Coach Miller loved bouncing things off you throughout the whole season. Why go with such a small school in such a rural area that maybe doesn't have all the attention of one of those Philadelphia or Pittsburgh schools?
Well, a person that I have a tremendous affinity for, not the wife of Coach Miller, but Larissa Miller, is one of my buddies and business partners, and we have formed such a bond. That's where she went to school. And I heard so many great things about the school that it was a no-brainer to want to be a part of those guys. And then once I met them and met Coach Miller and had conversation with them, it was amazing. You know, it was amazing the opportunity. It was amazing the camaraderie that we built so quickly. And it just went to show that in the midst of adversity, that you can still find some really, really cool wins. And it was just really, I was just really excited to be a part of them and to follow their season and see the type of excitement and dedication that was connected to what they were doing, and to play a small part in motivating them and giving them hope and giving them some focus and things to think about. It was a pleasure, and it was quite an honor.
Coach Miller didn't really talk about wins a lot, and he didn't talk about goals to win district titles or state titles. He just talked about being better at life. Is that something that could be taken from his program and spread out to other programs, that if you're winning in life on a daily basis, that wins on the field, wins on the court will happen?
That's the thing, right? Like, I think sometimes we get confused as to what winning represents. And just listening to the speeches and how he unfolded his messages through writing books, like through the season. So he has this really creative, innovative way of how he communicates with his players by them writing a paragraph of the book for each week of the game, which I thought was just brilliant on his part and on his behalf. Wins matter. They do matter. Anybody tells you wins don't matter, you're sugarcoating what competition is all about, right? You don't want to teach your kid that losing is okay, that participating is just all it needs to be. Oh, just participate. No. Winning matters, but it's also how you go about winning. And I think protecting the integrity and developing a sense of identity, that's what goes along with proper winning. You know, understanding the lessons that go into, if you put the time and the effort into your preparation, if you take pride in what it is that you're doing, if you build camaraderie, if you build belief, winning will come. That's important. You don't want to teach somebody to do all of those things and you're always losing, because it's ultimately a contradiction, right? Anybody that says, oh, you learned some great lessons and you lost, like, and you always lose. But it's okay, because if you put your best foot forward, you'll always lose. And it'll be okay, because you know what? You put your best foot forward. That's a crock of baloney. I don't even know if crock of baloney is even a good statement. You know, I'll tell you what it's a crock of, but, you know, it is what it is, right? Prepare to be successful, prepare to win, and know that in preparing to win, if I did everything that I possibly could do to prepare to win, and I win, then act like you've been there. Have a level of understanding on what that looks like. But to accept failure is not something that I subscribe to. And it's not something that really should be, you know, encouraged. So when I listen to Coach Miller and how they spoke to one another in the Elko locker room, it's definitely about competing at a high level. They're a quad A team that have low numbers. I mean, very, very, like a very small quad A team, and yet they're super competitive and they're able to compete with bigger schools. To me, the message is that we may be few, but we play like many. And understanding that a mentality that you bring to the table isn't about worrying about winning and losing. It's not about worrying about winning and losing. It's about preparing to win. It's what your mindset is prepared for. It's what you're dialed in on. It's what your focal point is. So if you come up short, but you prepared to win, then it's okay. You go back to the drawing board and you keep preparing, because preparing with a winner's mindset is ultimately the key. But you also have to win to understand that a winning mindset comes along with, results. You can't convince me that a winning mindset is a winning mindset if you're a loser, like if you're losing. Just doesn't make it's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction. That's like saying that light and darkness can exist together. It doesn't work that way.
You have your Up on Game podcast and with Fox Sports Radio with TJ Hushmanzada and Plaxico Burris. These are, along with yourself, these are guys that have experienced the highest of the highs in professional sports, and in some cases the lowest of the lows. By having those type of athletes to reach out through your 1 million kid campaign.
Yeah.
What, through the 1 million kid campaign, what do you hope to achieve through that eventually? And what's been the response through other professional athletes that you try to bring into the program?
The 1 million kid campaign is structured to be able to touch kids in every single market that I possibly can. And through my partnership with Fox Sports Radio and their support and buy-in to wanting to impact youth and youth around the country, we've launched this campaign where we basically have live interaction with kids in those different markets, working with the local influencers of the teams, the sports teams, the pro teams, and also the personalities on the radio stations locally in those markets. So for us, the idea of it is to give them an outlet of hope, an outlet of normality, or even a little bit better than normal. Like, out of the norm, you got an opportunity to speak with and see in a live Zoom call somebody that you look up to for the team that plays in your city. You got to hear the voice of one of the radio personalities that are on the radio, Fox Sports Radio, in your city. So we just want to create an opportunity where they have a getaway, and it's important to address it in that manner, because just bringing for that 30-minute call, 40-minute call, just bringing a smile to the people's faces that are on that call, the level of just fulfillment that has is amazing. And so we wanted to recreate that and continue to recreate that all over the country, trying not to leave anyone, leave any market out. And so it became like a bigger approach and a bigger idea. This is bigger than me. This isn't like an ego-driven deal. There are probably the vast majority of kids that we will talk to and touch don't even know who I am. So it really is about facilitating the opportunity for them to see tangibly, as tangible as possible, of course, over the Zoom call, see somebody that they admire and that they look up to, just to hear their words about how they feel about what's going on right now, or what did they eat for breakfast that day, or just a sense of normality that may provide a little bit of ray of hope and a smile on their face that they otherwise may have not have had, because there's so many things that these young people are dealing with mentally and emotionally going through this COVID-19 time, that really, it's not even about scholarships or anything like that. All of it, it's about interaction. It's about, just having an ability to feel as though you're wanted or you're special or something, you matter. That's always what our approach and our idea of what we're doing within the people in my ecosystem. We're always pushing and striving to be a part of that type of interaction with the youth. So it was important for us to create something like that, and it's something that we're really proud of and excited about launching as well.
Talking a little bit about college football and moving towards Penn State, I wanted to ask you this question first. The college football game and just the college football world is completely different pretty much from when you were at Penn State. It kind of started with Phil Knight out at Oregon, and it's kind of everything is just snowball. Let me ask you this. Is it good, the direction, or is it good where we're at in the place for college athletics, and is it good where the direction is heading, in your opinion?
Whether it's good or not, it's where it's heading, right? Like whether COVID was good or not, it's what happened. So that's the evolution of what's taking place at the college level. So it doesn't matter whether I think it's good or not. I think that millions and millions of dollars should be invested in the babies and what that looks like in terms of their development. Pay teachers more money, do more for healthcare, whatever it may be, programming wise, that can help build and generate better, stronger young people, for the future. But that's an ideal world for me. The reality of it is that football is at a football school, Power 5 schools, big time football schools that aren't even major Division I schools, just big time football in general. You're going to get your biggest return on investment by putting it into those programs. So most people have realized that, and it becomes a matter of who is building the best facilities, what's making it most attractive to the recruits. And that's ultimately the best opportunity that these schools have to be able to build programs that are going to be able to sustain success. And if you know how football works, college football works, sustainable success, the higher that sustained success is, the more revenue you're going to generate. So you're going to have more opportunities with ad dollars. You're going to have more opportunities with businesses growing and coming, building the cities. I mean, when I was at Penn State, it vastly changed the way it looked from when I was there to what it is now. What do you attribute that to? Right? What are we really thinking about why State College, Pennsylvania has basically grown in size so much and has grown with businesses so much just since the late 90s? Why do you think that is? And just imagine if more money has been invested in the program where they're winning national championships. I started thinking to myself, have you ever been to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to Alabama's campus, right? That's not a major city. Have you ever been to Clemson, in South Carolina? It's not a major city, right? So you start thinking about some of these places. Ohio State is a bigger city, so Ohio State can get away with being, like a metropolis of sorts, right? Like they have big buildings, skyscrapers, and different things there. But some of these places, like Penn State, like the other schools I mentioned, they're not in major cities. You can't leverage the market and the just the industries that are there. Like if I have gone to Pitt, Pitt, it's a film industry. It's a medical industry. So you can leverage other things to generate money, in and around that place. And maybe it's more competitive for Pitt to get a hold of dollars. I don't know how that works per se, but I do know that you have the installation of their major sports there. You have professional sports there, right? You have the Steelers, you have the Pens, you have the Pirates. So to me, you can leverage other things to insulate. You're working like, isn't it true that the Steelers and the Panthers are connected? It's the same facility, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so think about that, right? You're insulated. What does Penn State have to lean on? We don't have a pro team to lean on. There's not a pro team that has a pro stadium that we share the stadium with and that we share the facilities with, right? So when you think about some of these things that are taking place, what is the draw? What are you trying to do? Whether we like it or not, it's always going to be what's most attractive to the parents and to the kids when you're trying to get them to like your school. The academics is amazing. It plays a part. It should play a part. The quality of the place that they're going to should matter. It should play a part, but let's not fool ourselves. If your facilities aren't on par with the top facilities that are out there, you're not going to get the type of guys that are going to make your program or help your program to climb to the top of the ladder, which ultimately, Drew, you'll attest to this. What's the first thing we say when Coach Franklin loses to Ohio State? There needs to be better coaching. There has to be better coaching. We don't say, oh, no worries, don't worry about it. We get good kids. They get good grades, which, by the way, Penn State players get great grades. Don't worry about it. Yeah, maybe we'll get them next time. No, you're talking about we need better coaching this, coaching that. But if you're not giving that coach the opportunity to be able to bring in better players, ultimately it's always players over plays. That's ultimately what it's always going to be. And when you look at these teams, it's always the same teams that are winning the national titles. It's always the same teams that are competing for the national titles. And go look at their facilities. All right. And when you see their facilities and you see what it is that these kids are buying into, then you start to realize that either you get on board and you do the same exact thing, or you're going to find yourself in a position where you're getting left behind.
This is the last question I got for you. One of the best players in the country, maybe two, is LaVar Arrington. Or obviously not you. I'm talking to LaVar Arrington.
Micah Parsons
from Harrisburg.
Yeah.
And also Jason Owe. They're two freakish athletes. You're a freakish athlete. You played with a freakish athlete, Courtney Brown. It's almost like a 1999 or 2000 draft class kind of reincarnated a little bit in terms of athletic ability. How do you see those guys and the challenges that they're going to face in a unique NFL offseason? They only have the pro day. They're not going to have the typical the combine and the interviews in person and things like that.
They're going to tear up the pro day. Their measurables, their times are going to be crazy. That's going to be crazy. They're faster. They're both faster than me coming out of college. So I look forward to what they're going to do performance-wise. Jason is a ridiculously, uberly, cerebral, intelligent young man that his upside is scary because he hasn't played very long. So I hope he goes to the right team, because if he's in the right situation and gets developed the right way, he's going to have a tremendous NFL career. As it applies to Micah, Micah's just he's different. He's just different. And that's kind of just the only way you can kind of really explain Micah Parsons is he's special and he's different in just a different way. Like, I don't know what to anticipate, but when I look at him from what I've gathered, and how, like, he's like a son to me, by the way. Like, it's not just like I know him. He's like one of my children. But his instincts, his ability, I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I know people have called his character into question. That's a non-issue. I think it's interesting that sometimes when a kid is so special and you look for, like, where can we chip away at him? Where can we kind of take a shot at it? Though anybody who's sitting there saying that he has a character issue, they either have an agenda or they just have not taken the time to get to know him. There have been plenty of people throughout the course of my career that based what they felt about me off of how they saw me play. I was a valiant football player. So you might think that I'm a valiant person or I'm like a mean person in real life, and I'm not. And I've heard people say interesting things about me and never even met me, never even sat down with me, never took the time to talk to me, anything. And I think that may be a little bit based upon what came out with the player that, Humphreys, that had something to say about certain players. I won't go into that, but I will be certain to tell you that there's no merit in what that was being said about him or Jason, or excuse me, him or Jesse Laquetta in that scenario. And to turn a situation like that into a character issue of who Micah is and what that represents to his draft stock and status, again, it's irresponsible. I think it's lazy reporting. I think it's no news. It's fake news. And in the wash, when the wash comes out, you'll look at someone like Micah Parsons, and those people that called his character into question will have to repent. They'll have to apologize for what they said, because as the light gets bigger on him, and it will get bigger on Micah Parsons, as it grows, as the spotlight grows on him, you'll find out what type of dude. We're working right now on a foundation, Micah and Jason. Jason is creating a foundation that is addressing sustainable housing in Africa, where he's from. Micah is addressing juveniles who have gotten caught into the system and need guidance and need resources and support to have a fair opportunity moving forward in their lives. As these things I'm totally blown away by the fact that this is something that is a passion of theirs, and almost made me feel, it gives me a reprieve, because as much as I've done, I never took this aggressive of a step to make a difference. And so to be a part of helping them along with some of the things, the projects that they're working on to impact their communities and impact people. If you have a problem with a person's character that is trying to address the needs of our communities the way these two guys are, shame on you. And that'll come out in the wash. That's not a fight for me to have to get involved with, because he's such a good dude that as things continue to grow and as his star starts to shine brighter, you'll have many opportunities to find out how awesome of a young man he is.